So, welcome everyone. Let us start. I hope we were able to gather ourselves with the music. So, I'm thinking, assuming that we stopped at 212, page 212. Yeah, somewhere here. Yeah. Anybody remembers where exactly did we stop? I didn't check the last one.
I think last time Jagan had sent to me when I'd asked, he had put on the chat, page 212 until its preconceptions and cherished conclusions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
That's what he has sent on the chat, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. So maybe we can take a little overlap. Maybe we can go through this para again just to have an overlap and then we can continue. Yeah. So if would anyone want to read it out aloud? Anyone who has the capacity?
I can read for a few minutes just now. I'm in between work.
Sure. Yeah.
There is another disabling limitation under which reason labors. It proceeds by division and analysis, as we have already seen, for it inherits the basic function of the mind, which is to divide, to separate, to analyze into parts. It cannot deal with an undivided whole. When it synthesizes, it does nothing better than putting the discrete parts together, agglomerating or assembling the diverse elements into a whole. But it often finds to its surprise that its syntheses abound with discrepant elements and anomalies. Footnote 1. It is not in the mental consciousness that things can be harmonized and synthesized, the mother. Then it eliminates what it cannot harmonize and retains only those elements that agree with its preconceptions and cherished conclusions. When it deals with the ideas and views of other minds, its personal preferences and incapacity to reconcile apparently conflicting elements vitiates all its judgments. In philosophy, its defects show conspicuously. It erects admirable fabrics of thought, trim, logical, and symmetrical, but founded on uncertain postulates derived from the sense data and expanded and buttressed by inference and speculation. That is about the high waters mark of its achievement. It can catch some broken reflections of truth, but not truth itself. Its theories are feats of intellectual speculation, but they do not lead human consciousness beyond the confines of the mind. They do not open doors upon infinity and eternity. They do not make us experience and live reality. The basal differences between the speculative structures of the philosophers are the measures of the incapacity of mental reason to envisage truth in all its aspects and reconcile its apparent incompatibles and contradictions. Want me to carry on?
I think it would be nice if you just complete this one. Yeah.
Okay. If it accepts the impersonal aspect of reality It rejects the personal. If it regards reality as static and inactive, it dubs all creation and action as illusion. Or if, like Heraclitus and Bergson, it perceives the exclusive reality of the universal flux, it considers the status and immutability of reality as myth and moonshine. If Brahman is nirguna, or devoid of all qualities and attributes, it cannot be at the same time saguna, or possessor of qualities. These are the usual trenchant oppositions created by human reason, even at its best, and the all harmonizing unity and integrality of reality. It is baffled by the paradoxical nature of reality, by its simultaneous possession of radical contraries. It is a malady of the ordinary human intelligence, which comes necessarily from separation, from division, that things must be either this or that. If you choose this, you turn your back on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, beautiful and very, very crisp, what you just read. Yeah. Yeah, any thoughts? Anyone, any reflection on what we just read? I think on these last few lines, it is often seen and also believed without even really checking it practically, that if one is turning to spirituality, it means that one is turning away from the world. Usually, it is seen like that, and often in our casual language, we say, "Oh, that person is a Sant Mahatma. He doesn't bother about." So, I think with integral yoga specifically, we get to see this involvement of both spirit and matter. And as mother says, that money is right now in wrong hands, money, power, all that has to come into the right hands. Because usually, whenever we turn our gaze to spirituality, it seems like you have to let go of all that is considered material, but here we have to repossess it, but with a purified being, purified mind, life, and body. That has to be repossessed. We can't just let it be in the wrong hands. So this is how one sees. Yes, Shilpa, please.
What I found really interesting further up on page 12, if you can go further up because I can't read it, it is this thing of when it synthesizes, it does nothing better than putting the discrete parts together, agglomerating or assembling the diverse elements into a whole. But it often finds to its surprise that synthesis abound with discrepant elements and anomalies. Then it eliminates what it cannot harmonize and retains only those elements that agree with its preconceptions and cherished conclusions. I found that line was so, so true that even when we think we've seen both sides of, say, for example, an argument between two people, not even an argument, or just, that you're seeing things from a different perspective, and you think, oh, I've seen from that person's point of view. So, you almost create this thing of, oh, okay, I understand what they're going through, or at least I can empathize or sympathize. But of course, we haven't harmonized within ourselves because we are only listening from the outer, because we've not quite harmonized it within ourselves, because obviously we only see our point of view or experience our point of view. I'm not sure how often one really, really experiences what the other person is trying to tell you or saying or experiencing, even as much as you sympathize with them. And it's exactly what we do, that we just eliminate what we don't, and so then continue sticking to our point of view, even though we've thought we've harmonized it. But it's so powerful, those two lines.
Yeah, yeah, really. This is how I think we make friends, usually in as we are growing up, those friends who resonate with my thoughts are my friends. And those who usually disagree are my not my friends, and they are even considered opponents. Mm. So what it yeah, please.
Yeah, not true. But what I feel is even in as part of our trying to grow in this integral yoga or this sadhana, you know, that okay, whatever we call sincerity to ourselves, we are saying, I'm trying to see the other person's point of view. I'm trying to put myself in the other person's shoe, or to put that very on the basal outer side. But this so clearly says that even in all that trying, one has to go even deeper and deeper and deeper, because we are still eliminating so much. We're just not quite getting there. Even if we've gone past, like, okay, I'm not friends with that one because I don't agree with them or they don't agree with me. Even if we've gone a little bit behind and try and live in as much samta as possible with people, and see, okay, that's their point of view, and okay, we agree to disagree. But it's quite powerful that, yes, so true that we keep still eliminating so much.
Yeah, yeah. And in his ideal of human unity also, I think he shares that true harmony, true unity is not possible if we don't turn to our true consciousness. So if all of us want true harmony in relationships and work, all the places that we are involved in the worldly affairs, even then it is a necessity if we want true harmony. mm, where, as mother says, in true harmony everything has its hierarchy. Mother says, uses the word hierarchy, that each thing, like a piece of a puzzle, it has its proper place. So that's how it is in true consciousness, and that's how it is harmonized. Each thing gets its proper place. Mm. But we don't understand that hierarchy, because whenever we talk about the word hierarchy, what comes to us is superior, inferior, and the mind can't, get let go of that superiority. Oh, you are superior, and usually we are full of this sense of lack. So if somebody else is superior, I want to be superior. How can I be inferior? So the mind looks at hierarchy in terms of superior, inferior. But mother talks about spiritual hierarchy, where she talks about each thing, each individual having a particular right, just position, that he occupies in this whole world, and nothing else can fulfill that particular position. That's true hierarchy. But of course, for that we have to travel, make the journey towards our true consciousness, if one can call it a journey. Although we are that all the time, but we are not there all the time. We're not living that all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Anything more? Anyone here? I think this is also this somehow it comes out for me, this particular one, because I can relate with one of my experiences here. Its theories are feats of intellectual speculation, but they do not lead human consciousness beyond the confines of the mind. They do not open doors upon infinity and eternity. They do not make us experience and live reality. I remember, many years ago, uh, initially when I was being diagnosed with an illness, uh, there was a healer who was, I don't know really personally, but she was a distant healer. And so somebody suggested that, okay, why don't you connect and maybe you get some lead. So I connected with her and she said, okay, do you know meditation? And I said, yes, I have read about meditation. So, and I can really laugh about it now, because after that I realized that reading or philosophizing or thinking about meditation is not meditation. And Kabir ji talks about this, he says, जो पानी के नाम को पानी जाने वो नादानी है, पानी पानी कहते कहते प्यासा ही मर जाए. So if I keep on chanting the name water, 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 that will not quench my thirst. One has to drink water, practically one has to take the plunge. So I think that really resonated, that intellectually one may know many many things, we so many workshops we keep attending, we may talk and discuss about what is cosmic consciousness, what is spiritual realization, what is psychic realization, and there are people who may not even know these terms, what is psychic being and what is psychic realization, but are living through their psychic. And mother talks about this, that it is not necessary that one has to be overtly spiritual to be living through the psychic being. And then there are people who can continue to talk about psychic being, but really practically no idea, not really touch of that dimension. And that is why, again, Kabirji says, I don't call you a true scholar. Pothi pad pad jag mua, pandit bhaya na koi. And a true scholar is one who lives the reality. What he was just sharing in these few lines. That this intellectual speculation and all that gymnastic, it doesn't take the human consciousness beyond the confines of the mind. They do not open doors upon infinity and eternity. They do not make us experience and live reality. And this doesn't mean, again, people can take it in any different way, but this does not mean, we cannot discount that, okay, now I have to stop today all the reading that I am doing. So everything has a purpose, has a proper place. And reading also opens up our mind. That is it's like a ladder, it's like a conveyor belt. It has led us to a place that opens our mind. And now, the journey practically unfolds. And even at times, reading may not be required. So, and I can't just stick to reading and do really nothing practically, no. And only I can know, honestly, sincerely, I can know where am I practically, living all the things that I'm talking about. Good to think about that. Yeah, anything here, anyone?
Yeah, in what Shilpa was sharing and what you just shared, having had a very analytical mind in general and always trying to win arguments, conversations, and stuff, I just like more of a, I guess, confession and observation that it's a very dirty game. Like, one feels very satisfied or very like, I need to pat my back that, oh, see, two people were saying this, but ये बोल के मुंह बंद करा दिया. Na, and matlab, again, I think I even shared last time that the truth is lost totally in my wanting to win. And there are so many times when losing would have been more noble. It would have been more, more peaceful, more like, because lot of times when we are fighting, it appears that, again, one of the very common examples, like Jhansi ki Rani, ki you're winning Jhansi, right? You're doing something noble, you're standing against the adverse forces. But I would say 9 out of 10 times when I argued, there was no Jhansi. There was just my ego, right? There was just that I have to be right. And because I'm a good argumenter or whatever that is called, right? Like I can, whatever is thrown at me, I would use that and put it, bolster it with my argument. And now when I'm, you know, in general being exposed to these words and seeing how things work with more, grace and mindfulness, one can realize that again, the reasoning is also something that one gets tired of. Like one gets, like we talk about disgust, right? Like sometimes when something smart comes to me, which is very haha, very clever, Like there's a disgust that follows कि अच्छा अभी भी, and I still I would say it, I might do it, and yet there's a part which says कि okay और कर लो type. So just we think it's really clever of me to be clever, and yet it takes a lot of effort to not be clever and be just maybe no, I don't know, nobody or more accepting. Yeah.
See, I think this is where there is a right place for reason, and then one has to go beyond when one has used it enough. And again, as we talk about using the wrong tools at a wrong place, it may be a tool is a tool, it's neutral, but I use it, all the time unnecessarily. And that creates the disgust that you were, and it's beautiful to have that disgust. It means that, there's some threshold is nearby. Yeah. And I think what you were sharing about maybe fighting the right battle, if I can use that word. So it's not that battling is not good. It doesn't mean what you were sharing. It doesn't mean that अच्छा कोई भी stand लेना है तो आप चुप हो जाओगे, and that is why, oh, because it was shared in the session कि चुप हो जाओ वही better है. I think we can take it in all which ways. The mind tweaks it. So it is very important to see for what I am standing. Is it worth it really? Like, Sri Aurobindo was one of the few people who in the freedom struggle was actually for violence. He said कि भाई बहुत peace अहिंसा अहिंसा कर लिया, मतलब it has to be really revolutionary. You can't just deal with it like that, and we can't really believe it. Sri Aurobindo ने बोला. So everything has its proper place. We have to know. Yeah.
I find quite often, I think that faith helps, because sometimes everyone feels a bit, I would use the word bullied, because one is not able to quite give one's argument with clarity, even though one knows, because the words that one has is not enough, and the other person is better at their words, is better at expressing themselves. And so that itself puts you in a space of indrawing and withdrawing. And the easier path, yes, to say, okay, just shut up and just keep quiet, and but then it's not helpful either to yourself, because you're suppressing it, and somewhere it's going to just come out in different ways, and not necessarily which is helpful to either party. And so it's then like then one reaches a kind of helplessness, like, okay, abhi main kya karu, because I don't know how to do this. I want to keep harmony, I want to keep peace, I want to keep quiet, and yet I don't like being bullied by this other person because they are better at it. I mean, it's like, I guess, a barrister or a lawyer in the court, right? They'll get the better of you, and that's the party which wins if they can produce their better argument, of course, with facts. Um, and then it's like, okay, this is where then saying, okay, help. You're almost saying help to the mother, like, okay, I can't do this, or I can't with my intellectual or my mind do this, whether it's a work situation, a home situation. I mean, literally it could be anywhere. I mean, it's not, um, and then somewhere, where mother says that the circumstances become such, situations become such, that you get given that help, maybe not in the way you envisaged it or whatever. And it requires kind of a quietness, a patience, and a real true leap of faith that, okay, you've done what the best you can with your mind and your capacity and your way of being. And then after this, let's offer and surrender and then trust that even if the journey is long and there is no solution to this, and you still keep feeling this, you know. And I find help that faith and surrender is huge in terms of just feeling enveloped and loved and not lost. But so then you start putting your kind of ego aside, that okay, I'm not, I'm feeling this, but okay, if my ego is bruised, fine, let me offer that ego also to the mother. So it's a whole big combination of all of that, which I find tremendously as the journey goes on, that it's the biggest help. And I kind of then have this great sense of gratitude, that thank you for bringing me to you, because I know I don't feel helpless. Even though I feel hopeless about a situation, I don't feel helpless, because that constant support I know is coming from her, and she's there. She's Big Mom.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. I think this is very interesting to see how, although in theory we may know, we may have read that, as mother also says, that never lean on anyone for contentment or support, very clearly. And we all may have read something or the other in this alignment, that always seek divine for your contentment. But somehow we are, maybe this is what is called ignorance, that we are so blinded that again and again we make the same mistake. Sooner or later, we again want somebody to back me up, either a situation to back me up, either a person to back me up, and as it has to happen, we fall, as mother says, we fall on our nose and we hurt ourselves. And mother says at times it hurts very badly. And then we turn to the mother again, ooh, जैसे रोता रोता बच्चा, खेलता खेलता गिर गया, मम्मी कहाँ है, मम्मी कहाँ है, almost like that हमारी situation होती है. So it's very interesting. I find it very interesting that हमारी उम्मीद नहीं छूटती संसार से. Knowing that everything is fleeting in this world. Even my best friend is fleeting, his priorities may be fleeting, people are changing all the time. I can't bank upon one person or 2 3 people in my life, can't even bank upon a situation, a property, or wealth. Everything is fleeting, like you have this swampy mass beneath your feet, it's like all the time moving, and yet we place our hopes there. And from time to time, it's good, actually, it's good that we get disheartened and disappointed, because otherwise we don't turn to the divine fully. So the more blows I get, it as if it comes like a conviction, nahi ab to main pura mudna hi hai mother ki taraf, nahi ab to main pura mudna hai. And then again something comes which gives me hope. Again I relatively forget the mother, and then have my hopes from that situation, that person. Then again I get disappointment. So I think the kind of nature we have, this kind of dog's tail nature, and that's why the problem of pain, the canto on the problem of pain, because as long as I remain dog's tail, it is impossible that that foot on the dog's tail is not necessary. It is necessary to straighten me up. So, and that is what maybe they call transformation of nature, कि अभी वो टेढ़ी ही है पूंछ, तो कभी कभी बीच में सीधी लगती है, लेकिन क्योंकि वो जब वो पैर पड़ा हुआ है उसके ऊपर, और जब वो पैर हट रहा है, तो 2 4 मिनट के लिए तो सीधी रह सकती है. उसके बाद जब वो पैर पूरा हट गया, तो वो वापस उसने अपना वही कर्व ले लिया जो उसका कर्व था ओरिजिनली. And I am assuming that this is what maybe we call transformation of nature, where there is irrevocable transformation. Now it cannot go back, but that requires, I think, a lot of time. God knows what, for each one of us.
It's those Savitri lines, right? If the heart were not forced to want and weep, his soul would have lain down content at ease, and never thought to exceed the human start, and never learned to climb towards the sun.
Beautiful. Yeah. Exactly. I think that's why many of us may experience that when we are truly aspiring to be more pure and towards the path, then whenever some conflict happens or some thappad happens to us, actually we somehow are thanking that thank you, कि ये मिला क्योंकि I see that, oh, I again got strayed. So much of glitter is all around. Yes, Deepa.
I have a question, and I know I sound very egoistic over here, but so while I'm meditating a lot more and trying to be one with myself, I realize there's a certain level of impatience with people I now look at as being so behind in the way they think. For example, I was having this chat with my sister who's always a worrier. She's always been anxious. She's older than me, but usually I would be the one who's trying to tell her to, look at the other side of life, which can be nice. So what I noticed was, so while I tried to convince her about certain issues that she had, and she said, you won't realize what I'm going through because you're not in the same boat. I suddenly was so put off by her worries that I felt she had such a superficial outlook towards her issues, and that I just wanted her to rise a little more above and take a little more aerial view of it, taking things more broadly. I felt somewhere, was this my ego, a superiority that I felt suddenly, um, where I think I've gone so much way ahead that I could not connect with her. I feel spirituality should have actually brought more oneness in me, um, a more better ability to connect, to help her out, and if not, at least listen to her. But what I felt that day in that conversation was a superiority, and I felt that was also wrong, right? So how do you walk this path?
Yeah, beautiful. I think I'll request Taru to share once I want to say something. And Taru, maybe you can share that story which Mr. Srinivasan shared, that story of worms crawling. And I think that would really resonate here. But before that, one thing which is coming to me is, imagine that you are swimming. Earlier, you used to just jump around in the water and you felt okay, jumping around in the water. Now you are learning to swim, right? You're learning to swim. So होता क्या है कि when I'm learning to swim and yet not fully a swimmer, there is an intermediary state where I have lost the fun of, I'm losing the fun of just like rappelling around in water, and I'm learning new techniques. अब क्या हो रहा है देखो आप, जब मैं न्यू टेक्निक्स लर्न कर रही हूँ, अभी पूरी आई नहीं है, लेकिन it gives me a kind of a sense that see, I am growing, and look at those people, what are they doing? Chap 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 chap. But as each thing has its proper place, or abhi again, this is all the mind, what you were sharing, it's all the mind. And when I am learning to meditate, we have to see this is very sukshma, very subtle. Mind is still active. देखो मेडिटेशन कर रहे हैं तो उसमें क्या है, वी हैव टू लेट गो, वी हैव टू लूज वेरी होल्ड वेरी लूजली आवर थॉट्स. जो हमारे दूसरों के बारे में जजमेंट्स आती हैं और अपने बारे में जजमेंट्स आती हैं, उनको हमको इतनी प्रायोरिटी नहीं देनी है. बिकॉज व्हाट डू आई से टू माई सेल्फ, आई डोंट नो, आई सी विद सच ए लिमिटेड सेंस that I really don't know what I am thinking is true or not. So meditation helps us to detach from those thoughts and conceived notions which come from time to time, which is like full, our mind is full of that. और अभी मैं क्या हो रहा है, अभी मुझे ये लग रहा है कि सी वो तो बैठते भी नहीं है, अब तो मैंने बैठना तो शुरू किया है ना. तो यू आर राइट, आई थिंक आई रेजोनेट वेरी मच दैट इट गिव्स, सी अगेन wherever there is a categorization, the mind is still active. Superior, inferior, ahead on the path, backside in the path, wherever. And we that's what we were reading, it's very helpful, it's like a signal. Wherever mind is categorizing, it's the mind active. Don't think, मन को मृतक जान के मत कीजिए विश्वास, साधु तब तक भय करे जब तक पिंजर में सांस. तब तक मतलब ये भी नहीं कह रहे कि भैया एक रियलाइजेशन हो जाए तब तक भय करना छोड़ देना. वो कह रहे हैं जब तक you have breath in the body, no matter how many siddhis you may have got, the ego mind can always jump back. So we have to be very careful on this path. And mother talks about true silence. Mother says it's not by meditation that you get true silence. That doesn't mean that meditation is not recommended. She recommends dynamic meditation and whatever concentration in gathering, but she says just by meditation it is not enough to silence the mind. Then she goes ahead, she says it should reflect in your works. Your works have to be consecrated to the divine, then true silence comes. अब आप देखो, आप जो भी इंटरेक्शंस बता रहे हो, दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव टू डू, कि मैं शांत होती हूँ तो मैं ठीक होती हूँ, जब मैं मेडिटेट कर रही हूँ बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है. द मोमेंट आई बिगिन टू इंटरैक्ट, my interactions, I feel a sense of poison there. Something is not okay. That is what I have to offer to the divine. That wherever, अगर ये ill will भी आई किसी के लिए, कि superior inferior कुछ भी आया, उसी समय आपने उसको देखा. मेडिटेशन enhances that awareness, कि आप उसको देख पा रहे हो कि अच्छा ये मेरे में क्या चैटर चल रही है, किस टाइप की थॉट्स चल रही है ना. दिस इज व्हाट मेडिटेशन डज, इट एनहांसेस द अवेयरनेस. तो आपको वो दिखने लग गया कि अरे मैं तो अभी भी इसके बारे में ये सोच रही हूँ. तो आपने क्या किया, जैसे उसको देखा, यू ऑफर्ड इट टू द डिवाइन, यू डिड नॉट कीप दैट विद यू. So judgments, ripples of judgments will be there, but it is not necessary. Now I have a choice that I don't have to be dictated by them. वो एक झरोका दिखा रहा है मुझे, वो झरोका अब एनफ नहीं पड़ता, तो आप उसको साइड पे रख रहे हो उस झरोके को. आप कह रहे हो नहीं, मुझे अपने आप को fully in the present and now रखना है. So the purpose of meditation, and even in these lines it was shared, is more to live in the present moment. We are not in the present moment, we are in our thoughts and feelings, which we consider to be so true and precious. So we have to not take those thoughts and feelings so seriously, कि जो मैंने सोचा होगा वही होगा. One can take it very lightly, कि अच्छा कोई thought आई, मुझे क्या पता, but what do I know?
Thank you, Monica. That was really helpful.
Yeah.
And yes, I'd read Taru's that message about the worms, and I think even that resonated quite a bit.
Yeah.
Where some saw light, and some of them went way ahead of that light as well to seek it, and that was really nice as well to read. Yes, a very nice thought. Thank you.
उसमें ये वाली बात थी ना, मतलब जहाँ पे वो बता रहे थे कि कुछ वर्म्स को जब लाइट दिखने लग गई है ना, बड़ी. नाउ दिस इज द वाइटल मदर, विद मदर्स vision and clarity, we get very lot of help. This is the vital in us which gets too excited when it sees the light. ओ या मैंने देखी, उसको भी दिखाऊं, इसको भी दिखाऊं, उसको भी, aggression, restlessness. But in true consciousness there is no restlessness. So we can recognize कि ये मेरे में अब कौन सा पार्ट एक्टिव हो रहा है. जब मेरे को ये रेस्टलेसनेस हो रही है कि भैया मेरे को मिल गया, उसको नहीं मिला, ये कैसे? तो पहली बात तो मेरे को भी पूरा नहीं मिला है ना, एक झरोका दिखा है, और हमें लगने लग जाता है कि भाई हम वर्म्स नहीं है, अब तो मेरा तो हो गया, अब दूसरों का होना चाहिए. So, and as you were rightly sharing, I think good observation that spirituality makes her more ordinary and grounded. It doesn't make us special and elite, which we all are trying to become. So that's a very good sign that how ordinary, and and now again that should not become a formula कि see how ordinary I am. आप कपड़ों का सेंस चेंज कर लो, घिसे हुए कपड़े पहनने लग जाओ, आपको लगे सी हाउ ऑर्डिनरी, हाउ स्पिरिचुअल. सो आई थिंक वी ऑल शुड नो honestly and sincerely where we are going. But yeah, if we have seen truly spiritual people, then we would see how ordinary they are. They have no qualms about themselves, no I am the big one and I have given so many talks and written so many articles, not like that. They're very ordinary. Yeah. So that sense of oneness, interconnectedness that you were sharing, that becomes palpable. Okay, so it means that story has been shared, so I won't then bother you. with that to open your mouth. ठीक है. So yes, maybe we can take a little bit more and then see if we can touch upon reason and intuition today. I think this is how we also judge. We many a times judge people all the times we are doing that. So especially if somebody is spiritual and he's asking for money, we have this, oh, it means, he's not really realized being, he's asking for money. But we see that, as mother shares, that money has to be in the right hands. So truly, again, not a formula, but it doesn't mean that you don't touch money. It just means that it is not sticking to you. You use the money for right purposes. So जहाँ पे निर्गुण आप देख रहे हो कि एक जना कह रहा है कि अरे ब्राह्मण तो निर्गुण है, दूसरा कह रहा है नहीं नहीं सगुण है, तो यहाँ पे कहा जा रहा है कि भैया दोनों क्यों नहीं हो सकते, क्या प्रॉब्लम है उसमें? निर्गुण भी है, सगुण भी है. जब पैसा चाहिए तो पैसा ले लेंगे, जब नहीं चाहिए तो बिना उसके रह लेंगे. सो अगेन, एंड द माइंड गेट्स बॉगल्ड, क्योंकि माइंड को कैटेगरीज बड़ी पसंद है. अब उसको समझ नहीं आ रहा, मैंने कॉलम्स बना लिए, यहाँ पे मैंने निर्गुण का कॉलम बनाया हुआ है, यहाँ सगुण का कॉलम बनाया हुआ है, मैं डालूं तो किस में डालूं? बीच की लाइन पे डाल दूं क्या इसको? मतलब कहाँ डालूं? वी आर सो accustomed to make the Excel sheets and everything, tables. All the times we have to categorize, and it has a purpose, like we were discussing like last time, in sorting, organizing files and homes and keeping our being sorted. It helps at times. चम्मच कहाँ पे रखने हैं, चाकू कहाँ पे रखने हैं, ब्रेड कहाँ होनी चाहिए, it all is very helpful, but not to use it unnecessarily all the time. जहाँ उसकी जगह नहीं है वहां वो चुप ही रहे तो बहुत अच्छा है. तो उसको चुप होना आना चाहिए. ये उसकी चपड़ 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 जो चलती रहती है, उसको चुप होना, that's what we call self mastery, that we know what is the proper use of a tool and then it shuts up when it's not required. Like mother says, when you say hush, then it must hush. It is baffled by the paradoxical nature of reality. It is baffled by the paradoxical nature of reality, by its simultaneous possession of radical contraries. And this is what Sri Aurobindo says, that the more one grows in the true consciousness, the more one is able to synthesize all the contraries. So एक ही टेबल पे आप बिल्कुल एक्सट्रीम ऑपोजिट्स की बात कर सकते हो, and they all make sense, they have their proper place, and that is what he has done in the synthesis of yoga, giving each thing its proper place. It is baffled by the paradoxical nature of reality, by its simultaneous possession of radical contraries. ये एक अक्सर हम कॉमन लैंग्वेज में हम ऐसा भी यूज करते हैं ना कभी कभी, कि अच्छा अगर तू मुझे प्यार करता है, तू मुझे थप्पड़ कैसे मार सकता है? इसका मतलब तू मुझसे प्यार नहीं करता. सो दिस इज हाउ द माइंड लुक्स एट प्यार, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, कि उसको क्योंकि पता ही नहीं है एक्चुअली में प्यार है क्या, उसको ये भी नहीं पता कि भैया प्यार में थप्पड़ भी हो सकता है और प्यार में जान भी जा सकती है. ये हमें, वी कांट रिलेट विद दैट. Simultaneous possession of radical contraries. This also reflects in how mother in the ashram, many people would say, mother, why are you keeping these people very close to you which are not really worth it? And mother says, why? They in fact need me more than some others. So radical contraries. एक तरफ है sincerity की हद, ऐसे साधक, sincere साधक, और एक तरफ बिल्कुल ऐसे लोग जो आप चाहोगे नहीं कि आश्रम में रहें. And that is love. simultaneous possession of radical contraries. It is a malady of the ordinary human intelligence, which comes necessarily from separation, because we all the time are dividing, cutting from division, that things must be either this or that. If you choose this, you turn your back on that. ये इसमें मुझे वो भी याद आ रहा है, how we talk about that there is no ground really. We all the time are wanting to hold on to some ground. And when I say that, oh, I have to have the ground in groundlessness, it doesn't make sense कि groundlessness में ground कैसे हो सकता है, it feels really not possible. Yeah. Yeah, so anything towards the end of this particular one, anyone? Okay, so I think some of us may be eager to read Reason and Intuition. That's why maybe no comments. It's okay. We can maybe, it's very small, so maybe we can take it all at once today. Yeah, if anyone wants to read, please go ahead.
Yeah, reason and intuition. It is only intuition that sees things in the whole. It commands an immediacy of knowledge which views the whole and the parts at the same time and embraces their apparent contradictions in a vast sweep of unifying and harmonizing vision. It is only intuition that can very well affirm, like the Upanishad, that moves and that moves not, that is far and the same is near, that is within all this and that is outside all this. Isha Upanishad. The action of intuition is diametrically opposite to that of reason. It sees the one, the indivisible, and the multiplicity as the manifold aspect or self representation of the same one. It has not to analyze or divide in order to know. It knows by identity, by becoming what it wants to know. Reason, on the other hand, tries to know now one aspect of truth and now another. Now in one way and now in another. But it never succeeds in knowing except in a very partial and fragmentary manner, for it creates an artificial gulf between itself and the object of its knowledge. All its action proceeds upon the basis of division, differentiation, and separation. By dividing the indivisible, it renders the object of its knowledge unknowable. That is why, Agnosticism is the last word of reason's quest of knowledge. What it thinks it knows is only the prismatic spectrum of appearances, the perpetual flux of changing forms, not reality, and not knowing reality. It does not know the truth of appearances either.
I think all of us may definitely, I'm sure all of us may definitely have glimpses of intuition. And it just happened, like we were not asking for it, but we have instances in our life where we have acted intuitively. And it's not that even we were aspiring, or maybe aspiration may have been there, doesn't matter. But we have glimpses. The point is that we have glimpses. Sri Aurobindo says that initially it starts with this, that we have glimpses of it, and then we begin to, maybe somehow through life happenings, begin to give importance to that. That becomes more important for us. And then slowly he says now, in true consciousness, it's not just glimpses through which I live, that becomes my life. I live through that consciousness. But that is how it starts. It comes as drops or trickles. He talks about that in ordinary mind, only when a few moments are there where you have intuitive knowledge. And then, even then, in that trickle of intuition, what happens is, since the instruments are not purified, they distort the intuition. So at times it happens that the intuition is distorted, and what is manifested is even a further distortion of what was originally coming to us. So what we have to do by purifying even the instruments that are there, mind, purification of mind, purification of feelings, vital energies, purification of body, that first of all preparing the receptacle ready, patrata as we say, so that when the higher knowledge comes, one is able to transform, like how in bansuri, if there is all the kind of garbage stuck in the bansuri, even when Krishna might be playing the flute, it won't play beautifully because the garbage is stuck. So the bansuri has to prepare itself to become hollow without any disturbances. Then when the breath is there of Krishna, then the nice music can come. And it's not that Krishna is not playing. Krishna is playing all the time, but so much of garbage is stuck that what comes outside is just like a poor mimicry, mockery, as mother says, of what was originally the idea. And mother has shared I found it very, very helpful. It's very clear description of how to tune in into our intuitive mind. And mother says that you focus above your head, a few inches above your head, and make it stable. Make that concentration stable, and as if there is a mirror which is turned upwards. And you just wait, 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 like that. And I have found it to be a beautiful use of even empty pockets of time. When all the time our attention goes down into stories and past and future events and present commentaries. Instead of that, if I can recognize the, oh, where am I going, and bring back the consciousness and do this exercise, one has to experiment. It really opens you up something which is above us. But then again, patrata means that I'm now giving it that much of importance, which it deserves. Now nothing else is more important than spending time here. That is how it becomes life. Otherwise, we will have just those trickles only because we don't want more. And in intuitive knowledge, we have, as he was sharing, a greater harmony, because then the mind is not active, the ego mind is not active with all its preconceptions and categories. It is left aside. It's not gone anywhere, but it's left aside. It's उसका वो बेरोजगार हो गया थोड़ी देर के लिए. So it's a different matter to talk about intuition, and it's a different matter to experiment and actually have intuition in practical life. And I think we all must experiment if we are really serious about it. Yeah, anything here on this paragraph? Anyone? यहाँ पे वो भी आता है, how we say that, how many masters have used this analogy that, okay, how many steps do you need to come to yourself? So you would say nothing. I don't need any steps. I am there. I can't walk towards me. So what he was talking about, that moves and that moves not. That is near and that is far. So we are standing always with our true consciousness, and yet we are far, and yet we have to make this journey. मतलब हम किसी से कितने भी दूर हो सकते हैं, बॉटल से, फोन से, लैपटॉप से, बट अपने से तो हम कभी भी दूर नहीं. अपन तो अब हैं ही हम. And even then we have to make this journey to come back home, because we are not home. यहाँ पे वो बात भी आ जाती है जहाँ हम बोलते हैं कि भाई डिवाइन तो अंदर है, हमारे अंदर है. अब ये कहने नहीं नहीं अंदर तो है, बाहर भी है, तो हम कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं. भाई अभी तो बोल रहे थे तुम अंदर है, अब कह रहे हो बाहर है. तो कह रहे हैं दैट इज विद इन ऑल दिस एंड दैट इज आउटसाइड ऑल दिस. वो बर्दाश्त नहीं होता, हमारे सीमित समझ से बर्दाश्त नहीं होता कि ये कैसे पॉसिबल है कि अभी अंदर कह रहे थे इमनेंट डिवाइन, इमनेंट डिवाइन, अब कह रहे हो बाहर. वी कैन गेट कंफ्यूज्ड एट टाइम्स. कभी मदर कह रही है साइकिक बीइंग पे फोकस करो, अंदर है, फोर्थ डायमेंशन है. अब मदर कह रही है कि ऊपर फोकस करो, बाहर है, बाहर. कहाँ फोकस करें? And as everything has its proper place, these experiences and centers also have their proper place, and to each his own, to each unfolding their own pattern may follow. तो जब तक हमारे लिए ये डिवीजन रहेगा कि देयर इज सम अंदर एंड देयर इज सम बाहर, दिस लैंग्वेज विल हैव टू बी यूज्ड दैट ओके अंदर भी है और बाहर भी है. बिकॉज अभी हमारे लिए वो डिवीजन एग्जिस्ट करता है. I see things like this, that okay, this is me, here is where I end, and here is where the other starts. So फिर ये लैंग्वेज भी इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है कि हाँ विद इन भी है और विदाउट भी है. Otherwise there is no point of this language. So this language is made for a mind which is categorical mind, divisive mind. So if any comments are there, we can take them. We can maybe take the lower half of this passage next time. Yeah, anything? Anyone?
Yeah, nothing much, but I used to like my sense mind used to perceive intuition as like, one thing is I'm trying to know, and there's one thing that knows. There is a lot of effort and there is no effort. It just is. There's no becoming. It's just, but I never looked at it this way. It is the whole, right? Like there's no division. There's just It just felt it was a knowing, intuition. हाँ मुझे लग रहा है कि ये करना चाहिए टाइप. उसमें भी ऐसा लगता था कि दिमाग यूज हो रहा है, काइंड्स के. बट दिस whole, like, not this, not that kinds. And even when you were reading, when I was reading and you were reflecting later on, that shloka na, purnamidam purnamida, that also kind of was coming. That also is so anti reason, right? Anti logic. कि बोल क्या रहे हो कि पूरे में से पूरा निकल रहा है, पूरा ही रह रहा है, पूरा, मतलब, it's quite. And yet it's so beautiful, like, even if you don't know fully what it means and how to chant it, when you're listening, there's something in you that just gets settled, right? So it's like, there are so many indications we get about this, but still we say कि नहीं. It's like I have a fully loaded debit card, right? कि I can use it anywhere. But I say कि नहीं, मुझे तो कैश पहले कमाना है और फिर कैश से पे करना है, because the world works with notes. No, but I refuse to use that thing that I have already, which is effortless, because I want to make effort, because I feel this is how the world works, right? And then I say I'm intelligent and I'm clever and happy birthday to me. Yeah.
आई थिंक थोड़ा लेजीनेस भी आ जाती है ना यहाँ पे, क्योंकि दिखता है कि एफर्ट तो चाहिए. आई मे हैव अ कार्ड, बट व्हाट कम्स वेरी easy for me, since we are born in ignorance, is earning cash, because the world around is earning cash, है ना. और जो वो कार्ड है उसको यूज करने के लिए मेरे को थोड़ा एफर्ट डालना है. So to access the intuitive mind, we have to put effort, and we are so lazy all the time. As I think Jetsunma also shares, that we are actually lazy. It's not that we don't have the means and we don't have the methods. The world is full of infinite number of methods and tools and philosophies. But we are lazy. We are stuck in our grooves time to time to time to time. As mother says, कि 3 दिन की बात है. जिसको चाहिए उसको 3 दिन में one can have realization of the psychic. Sri Aurobindo in 3 days, has the silence of the mind, and which never goes away. तो आई थिंक वही है कि अभी हम कहते तो हैं हमारे लिए ज़रूरी है, बट ज़रूरी है नहीं अभी इतना. एंड दैट इज़ वाई अदर थिंग्स कम अप विच आर मोर ज़रूरी, विच हैव टू बी अटेंडेड, एंड दिस गोज इन द बैकलॉग, बैक साइड. So intuitive mind के लिए I'll have to put effort. Right now it is there. Intuitive mind right now exists. I remember, Dr. Anand Reddy once, in long back in one workshop, he has shared, we were sitting in a room, and then of course there is, in Pondicherry, there is ocean outside. So he gave that example. I don't remember it clearly enough, but this crux stayed with me. He said that, see, we are sitting in this room, and imagine that this room is mind, the sense mind that we usually operate from. Now if you're asking, how does an intuitive mind work, what is super mind, then being here you cannot know what is super mind. And the example he used for the supermind, he said, now if you say you have to know the ocean, how is ocean like? So being sitting here in this room, you can only talk about ocean. You can't touch ocean. You can't have the feel of ocean. For that, you will have to walk this way. Again, effort comes into picture. Walk this way, this way, this way, that way. Come out of this door, go towards the ocean. This is what in other way we call ascent. Ascent of consciousness. जिस फ्लोर पे, जिस तल पे हम जीते हैं, सेंस माइंड, उस तल पे हमें वो नहीं मिलने वाला जिसकी हमको अभिलाषा है. तो उसके लिए हमको क्लाइंब करना पड़ेगा. तभी देन वी टॉक अबाउट इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ एस्पिरेशन, क्योंकि एस्पिरेशन हमको क्लाइंब करने की हिम्मत देती है कि कहीं कुछ है जो इसके परे है और इससे ज्यादा सुंदर है. So you climb, and that climb doesn't mean that you are leaving the below dirty. For a momentary time you are leaving the below. अच्छा, अभी ये नीचे का बाद में देखेंगे, अभी ऊपर जाके देखें ऊपर क्या है. And when you go above, then you are able to bring down that flow of light, force, and intelligence. So agar humko chahiye, those of us who really desire, if one has to desire, this is what one must desire, a truer life, a life full of true knowledge, true harmony, then this ascension is necessary. And Sri Aurobindo in the book The Mother, he talks about that there are two things which are necessary. First, this aspiration or this call, and second, the descent, the grace. अब तब भी हम नहीं समझे तो फिर तो हम हैं. Yeah. So yeah, I would suggest those of us who are really curious, or we may be doing it, practically experimenting with intuition. It's a very good idea if it resonates to what Mother has shared. That if you want to tap into your intuitive mind, then first of all we will have to work upon ourselves. We have to tame the mind a little so that it listens. And now if I'm concentrating above the head, it listens, and I'm able to concentrate. So, and in greater degrees as it stabilizes the consciousness, then in whatever, for each his own, छोटे से शुरू करते हुए आगे तक, then we have experiences of silence also of the mind, because the mind is relatively tame and is listening to the command of concentration. And one can turn upwards, as Mother says, like a mirror turned upwards, and wait. Mother says wait for the right knowledge to come. Rather than circling on the lower floor of reason. Okay, so any last comments before we end? Anyone?
Monica, just just like you were saying about mirror, I mean, I'm trying to, I don't know if you can share where Mother says about that. How is that? I'm just trying to think that the opening of the mind as versus holding a mirror up, because I mean, I know I'm getting my mental now into a bit of a twist over here, but by putting a mirror, you're kind of trying to get a reflection of something above, right?
Yeah, that is what Sri Aurobindo actually, in Synthesis of Yoga, he shares that it's like a limpid lake in which the reflection of the true can now fall. So first we have to make the lake limpid, like it has to become still. And I don't think it's verses. So you use the word verses. It's the same thing. Tools may be different. It is opening of the mind to higher.
Right. So it's like the mirror is the reflective part is turned up or turned in. I mean, I know I'm now beating about, with this mental puzzle that I'm doing.
Imagine this is the mirror. It's very simple, not very complex. This is the mirror. Here I see my reflection, and now I turned it upwards like this, so it's upward facing. The reflective part is upwards, so that if it's a clear, undusty mirror, stable, held very stably, in that the source, the higher, can shine its reflection. Usually our mirrors are all dusty, crowded, and full of haze. So that is what we have to clean. We have to first, that is why all these sessions or whatever we are reading, life experiences, it makes me convinced that okay, now I need a clean mirror. I don't need any more disturbance. So the mirror can be clean, and then it turns upwards, because I can't know, but there is someone who knows. So that someone, if one can call that someone, that reflects in that clear limpid lake, as Sri Aurobindo says in Synthesis of Yoga.
To me, it's like that is going to refract the light back.
Very nice. I really.
I know it's mental gymnastics, but it's like for me, this this mirror up there and down here. It's like a mirror down here is going to, if my mind is not limpid, which I would say 100% of the time is not limpid and quiet, it's just reflected. Whereas if it's turned away from me, then
Yeah.
what is coming down is going to
Yeah.
get reflected
No,
back and
so this
reflected
is,
back rather than coming
yeah,
into me, you know?
this is again stretching the example too far. And this is where faith comes into picture, what you were sharing earlier. Now the mother has said, do it like this. I am just going to do it like this. आगे और पीछे का थ्रेड मुझे नहीं जाना वहां पे, where reason takes me. कि अच्छा अगर मिरर है तो अच्छा ये होगा, अच्छा मिरर खराब है, तेरा येलो मिरर है, मेरा रेड मिरर है, तो वो ये होगा. सो वहां पे हमने नहीं जाना, क्योंकि सी आई एम एक्टिंग एज एन ओबीडियंट चाइल्ड ऑफ द मदर राइट नाउ, and mother has said do it like this. I'm not going to argue, I just do it like this. I don't ask questions. I must ask questions at various places. It's not that the mothers did not say ask questions, don't ask questions, but right now there is something which I have to experiment with. Now the mind will interfere in the experimentation. So here faith is necessary, shraddha, devotion towards the mother, that okay, let me try this without going into the other thread, left and right thread. Just a mirror, plain mirror, 5 रुपए का मिल जाता है रेडी वाले से. And in fact, if not a mirror, actually when you experiment you will see, if not a mirror, just stabilizing your attention a few inches above your head, turned upwards. I have even experimented and suggested to someone, like a bowl, like a begging bowl you have, right? Usually that begging bowl is always सबकी तरफ, मेरे को दे दो, मेरे को दे दो, approval दे दो, appreciation दे दो. Now you have turned it only to the divine. You are beggar, yes, still, but you are only a beggar to the divine. So you have turned it upwards, placed it overhead, but from time to time we remove the position and we again put it in front of some person or situation, that we do constantly. It could be anything, and again, as mothers answers are usually context to context based, we can't stretch them too far. If it's resonating, do it. If it's not resonating, move ahead, and do something else what resonates with the mother, or with you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
When you had shared it with me the first time, I think we had talked about visualizing like a solar panel, right? Like it has that thing and it's retaining, right? It's bringing that down and using that energy.
Yeah, that really helped.
Yeah, that solar panel is a good one too.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it's
Yeah.
absorbing the sunshine, right? So yeah, that's a great one. Thanks, Tarun.
Mother will be very happy. Now it makes sense to Shilpa.
As I said, it's all mental gymnastics, but still,
Yeah. No, anything that resonates, if solar panel resonates or mirror resonates or just stabilizing attention above head resonates, if all of that doesn't resonate, even that is okay. We have infinite number of tools. So
Yeah,
it
I
was
mean, it's
just,
just that opening. I mean, just like your head opening up is something, I guess, which is kind of worked for me. So
yeah.
it's like what you were saying about the bowl, because it's like empty at the top, right? I mean, there's an opening. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe today we can end with maybe 2-3 minutes of concentration above the head. So for those of us who may want to do it, those of us who may not, it's completely fine. Don't pressurize or force yourself. But if it resonates, maybe we can place our attention above head, facing upwards, and try to make it just stable here. Nothing, no expectation, just experimenting.